Good morning guys, and Happy New Year to those of you who haven't seen the couple of videos I've already uploaded this year, but I haven't really done much so far on YouTube. So in a lot of years previously, I've done like New Year's resolution videos, kind of, and started the year in that way. And this year I really haven't had any resolutions, and I think that has been partly because before Christmas, Mike and I made the quite significant step of going vegan or plant-based in our diets. And I'm going to stress in our diets because I know that being vegan is and can be like a whole lifestyle separate to what you're actually eating. And before I put myself into that position or open a can of worms, I do still wear my leather goods and stuff like that. I wanted to do a video about a little bit more about me going vegan, eating vegan, what that's been like. I've had tons of questions about it since we did it. And so I wanted to kind of address that, as well as talk to you guys about Milk and More, who are very kindly sponsoring this video. And if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen me speak about them before, because we've been using Milk and More for well over 6 months, most of last year I would say, and we started using it on the recommendation of a friend. We absolutely loved it, and we've continued using it, and then recently they approached me to work with them, which has been awesome, partly because we use it anyway and it's brilliant service, but also because they now offer a massive selection of vegan, organic produce, which makes our lives a lot easier living rurally. It's sometimes quite tricky to get a hold of things. Obviously you can get a hold of a lot of things in supermarkets now, but it also means we have to go to the supermarket less, which is brilliant. So what is Milk and More? In case you guys don't know, they're essentially like old-fashioned milkmen, but they don't just deliver milk. And I think the last time I worked with them, it confused a lot of people, because they're like, hang on, aren't you now vegan, but you're using Milk and More? Don't they deliver milk? They do deliver milk, but they also deliver non-dairy milk. So my delivery from Milk and More just arrived. We get our delivery 3 times a week, and I wanted to show you what we've got in it today. So as you can see from our delivery, it is a whole lot more than just your normal milk bottles. The first thing that I'm going to say is, in terms of actual milk, this is full fat milk that River drinks. They deliver them in old-fashioned milk bottles, which you rinse, you return, and then they refill. So from a sustainability point of view as well, it's really good. You're reducing your waste massively in terms of plastic waste, especially if you have kids. They get through so much milk. So those are for River. We've got 2 bottles. We get 3 deliveries a week, like I said. So those ones are for River. And then we've also recently switched. We used to get Oatly delivered by Milk and More. They do deliver Oatly milk. However, they've recently started doing milk alternatives in glass bottles, which is really exciting. We haven't tried this yet. It's the first time we have got this delivered. Like I said, normally go for Oatly, but I'm really excited about this because they, obviously you can also reuse and recycle these bottles too. So we've got oat milk, and we've also got their coconut milk, which actually looks good. I'm excited to try those. And then other things we've got delivered today, we get a weekly bread as well, which is also delivered in paper, which is brilliant. So we got tiger bread this week. Sometimes we get sourdough. We've got coconut yogurt, which River will often have for breakfast. To answer a question as well in terms of River being vegan, River is not vegan. We've got organic blueberries, which River will have with her yogurt as well. And we also have some, I think, are they satsumas? I don't even, small oranges, clementines. I never know the difference between clementines, satsumas, tangerines, all of those. Either way, River loves them. So she's got clementines for Riv, and then we've also got some tofu, which I'm going to be cooking in a tofu scramble for my breakfast. So that gives you a little bit of an insight as to like what we get delivered from Milk and More. And so in this video, what I wanted to do really was answer a couple of your questions about going vegan, because like I said, we've had so many questions about it, like the whole process and like how we found it and why we haven't really spoken about it yet. So I'm going to answer those. I've got like 4 key questions, and then I'm also going to share some of my findings in terms of what has made it easier going vegan, and also some tips for being more sustainable in the way you eat. And then finally, I'm gonna cook my breakfast. River's actually at nursery today. Normally I'd be cooking her breakfast as well, but because I was filming this, I've done her breakfast and I'm doing mine. I'm gonna cook a tofu scramble and show you one of the things that has made me miss eggs less, because moving on to the Q&A part, you'll see why. So one of the main questions I get when we talk about going vegan is, when did you go vegan? Like, how did I not know about it? When did this happen? So Mike and I decided to go vegan about 3 months ago, and to give a bit of context to this, this is something that we wanted to do, I wanted to do for probably 2 years. However, Mike was a massive meat eater. Both of our families are like farming background. We've grown up in the countryside, and it just, like, Mike wasn't willing to do it, and I didn't want to have to cook so many different options. So obviously River also has her food cooked for her. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna incorporate more vegan meals into our lifestyle, but we're not gonna be fully vegan. And then Mike watched the Game Changers documentary on Netflix, which has been insane in terms of the amount of men that I know of and have heard of going vegan from that. It's absolutely mental. Whether or not I necessarily agree with the arguments in it, or it's not my specific reasoning for wanting to go vegan, but it changed Mike's mind, and for that I'm pretty thankful. So that was the main kind of like motivation and the point of us changing. For me, my main kind of reasoning for it is environmental, but also a little bit of health. That is the main reasoning behind it, with a sprinkling of kind of animal rights in it. But I'd say that side of things was more so addressed by us sourcing our meat better when we were eating meat, as opposed to just stopping having animal products entirely. So that's like the main motivation. And the next question is, why didn't I know this, and why haven't you spoken about it before? And I have to say, like, I didn't necessarily want to when we were going through the process of changing, speak about it online for various different reasons. The main one being criticism from people, because I didn't want to do this just as a like YouTube thing, like, oh my god, we're going vegan, guys, like, let's document it, because I didn't know how it would turn out. I didn't know if we might end up giving up after a few weeks. I didn't know what would happen. So I really wanted to test it out from like a real life perspective first, and not really talk about it. The next question is, what were your reasons? And I've kind of spoken about that already, but and have you found it hard to change? And I have to say, like, I really haven't found it that hard. I thought I would find it much harder. I'd already changed, like I said before, to having like a couple of vegan meals a week. So I'd already made that transition. And so it wasn't actually really that hard at all. The other thing that people ask a lot as well is like, do you find it hard to cook inspiring things? Or, you know, how do you kind of mix up? Actually, I found the opposite, because I find in life in general, and I feel like most people are like this, you get stuck in a rut of like 3 or 5 recipes that you cook all the time on repeat. And changing to vegan, and like stopping eating meat and dairy, meant that we had to kind of find new versions of these, which means that we've actually been a lot more kind of adventurous with our cooking and with our recipes. We do still get meal kit deliveries, which are brilliant as well if you are vegan. Milk and More has helped us hugely as well, in terms of just making sure that we have dairy alternatives like readily available in our fridge all the time, as opposed to having to go out and kind of find the ones that you want. The one thing, and this leads on to the next thing that I'm going to do, is the one thing I have missed a lot is eating eggs in the morning, because I go through phases. Like, sometimes I'll be a cereal person, and that makes things really easy and like quick, and toast is really easy and quick, and you can do, like, obviously you can have like vegan spread instead of butter, and vegan milk instead of milk. But scrambled eggs have been something that I have had for breakfast regularly for a really, really long time, and they're something that I really miss. So today, in this video, I'm going to show you how I scramble up the tofu that I just got delivered, and how you make vegan scrambled eggs to trick yourself into thinking that you're eating eggs when actually you're not, and it still tastes really good. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to tell you my tips and what I've learned, like, have been easy ways to go more green or be more sustainable. Okay, this is super basic, but if you've never done it before, it seems really weird because it doesn't look like it would taste nice. And unless you've eaten good tofu before, tofu can be kind of gross. And it's all about how you cook it and what you season it with, because it can just taste really gross and rubbery. So what I'm gonna do is start with a block of tofu. This is the one that I got this morning. This is the Dragonfly brand. And it kind of goes against what you would think would be good, but you want the super firm one. Silken tofu is like too squishy. You would think you'd want something squishy to make something that resembles scrambled eggs, but no, this is gonna work. So what I'm gonna do is drain it and pop about half of it into this bowl. Looks pretty gross right now, but what I'm gonna do now is squish it using a fork. You can use a potato masher as well, but I mean, I couldn't find the potato masher if I'm honest, so I'm gonna use a fork. And once you start squishing it up, you can see it kind of breaks up into what looks like scrambled eggs. And then you literally cook it up as if you are cooking scrambled eggs. Frying pan, a little bit of oil, heat it up for a few seconds, salt, pepper, and the trick to making it look like eggs and not like tofu and really kind of a little bit bland is turmeric. So you pop in a little bit of turmeric, makes it go yellow. Little bit of salt and pepper, a few minutes, and the job is a good one. And then top secret thing right now that I've been using to make everything taste better, thanks to Lucy, who I work with, is this that I picked up in the States. It's basically like a sesame seasoning. Has like onion and sesame seeds in it. Pop some of that on and it is delicious. Okay, so before I actually tuck in to my yummy scramble right here, I wanted to share a few tips that I found have made my life easier when it comes to firstly going vegan, but also secondly being a bit more eco-conscious in the kitchen and with what I'm eating. The first one would be to follow people, and this is a lifestyle thing in general, this isn't just for eating, but would be to follow people that inspire you and give you ideas and make you want to change your ways. A big thing for me was kind of changing who I follow on Instagram, and it's actually had a big impact on not only kind of ideas and motivation, but also in like how I feel. Like it makes me feel so much better if I follow good people. And I know that's a really obvious thing, but I feel like a lot of the time we just follow people and we don't actually unfollow people when they make us not feel great. Do you know what I mean? And like you're in control of your own Instagram feed. So I'm gonna leave a list of people who I have found helpful when it comes to being a bit more eco-conscious in the description box below, and you guys can go and check them out. I'll write like a fairly long list of like who I really like to follow on Instagram right now. The second thing I think is to make sure you are planning what you're eating every week. Again, it sounds kind of obvious, but I definitely wasn't doing this before. Whether or not you're meal planning yourself and planning out recipes and buying accordingly, or you're using like meal delivery kits and things like that, it's always a good thing to do. Another thing is to make use of your leftovers. Again, this sounds obvious, but what we found useful, especially since going vegan and less things are available eating out. So if you're like on the go and you have to grab lunch, say if you're not eating vegan, it's actually really easy, but if you are, it can be quite difficult to find something that's nice. There's always something available. There's going to be something, especially at the moment, because a lot of people are doing veganuary, but so like a lot of the shops have that to offer, but they're usually wrapped in plastic and everything as well, so it's not always the ideal option. So what we've found is we cook more for our meal every night, and either cook something that you can then adapt to take to work the next day, whether or not it's adding it to a salad or putting it in a wrap or something like that. But we usually end up having some so that either Mike can take it to work, or I can eat it at home, or if I'm out I can take it with me and eat it out. So like that's helped a lot as well. And both in terms of not buying things wrapped in plastic whilst we're out, but also making the best use of our leftovers, because before we would end up throwing a lot of food away. And obviously having a compost bin helps as well. This depends on where you live in terms of whether or not your council offer a food waste bin. Ours do, but we also live in the countryside, so we can have a compost heap as well. Another thing is to shop seasonally. If you struggle to know what is in season, because it's quite difficult to know, keep an eye on where things come from on the labels in supermarkets, like where it's been shipped from. So obviously if it's been shipped from the other side of the world, the carbon footprint of that food is going to be higher. But also there's a really good website, I'll list it below, where you can find out like what's in season when, and it gives you recipe ideas for like what's in season when. And then lastly, if you do drink a lot of coffee, obviously I feel like people are always talking about reusable cups, reusable mugs and things like that, but for us a big thing was actually making the investment into buying a decent coffee machine, which we didn't really have before, and we changed up now, and we now so rarely like even drink coffee from takeaway places anyway, let alone use like single-use coffee cups, because we're always just taking our own wherever we go. So that was a good change for us. Yeah, I'm gonna eat this now before it goes completely cold. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, a little bit of an insight into my morning, but also how we're changing our food habits and how we found it. I know I've had so many questions about going vegan and eating, like how we've kind of navigated that and why we haven't spoken about it, so now you guys know. Would you like to see more of these kind of videos? Would you like me to go more into it? I know I have thought of a few different kind of series ideas for this channel around going more green. This has been more of just like a chat, but more of like structured videos around that. Would you guys like to see that? Let me know if you would or if you wouldn't. Are any of you guys trying veganuary? Are lots of you vegan already? What was your journey? Have any of you gone recently vegan? I would love to hear from you how you're finding it. I'll speak to you guys soon. Hope you're having a great day. Bye.